Chapter 16. 2 months later. I flew back to New York and handed all the evidence I collected to Agent Evans. Miller's body was to have an autopsy, purely for formality purposes, while Blake and Clarice were processed. They pleaded guilty to grand larceny, burglary and conspiracy, but not guilty to possession of illegal firearms. I think they got something like 40 years, maybe slightly over, 20 if they were good, which I don't think should exist. If you're big enough and ugly enough to do the crime, then you're big enough and ugly enough to do the time. But that's just me. Noah, still Levi in their books, was presumed dead, thanks to a slightly forged report of mine. Levi McIntyre made a run out of the house while FBI agents of LA took charge. I chased him outside and incapacitated him. He rolled into the river ditch next to the house, where LA agents briefly scoped the area before focusing on the arrested criminals. I checked myself, to no avail. I can only assume his body fell under the reeds or was swept away. LA Department Agent Staneson stated that she'll have search teams out to find him, and when he is found, forensic pathologists will send a report over. Evans called a meeting with the supervising agents, myself, and anybody else who had contributed to the case to discuss the evidence that we had provided and the statements that had been submitted. Thank God I'd filled mine out the night before. Thanks to Miller's interference, it wasn't nearly as much as I'd initially collated. Miller must have wiped the significant parts, sir, I sighed, already expecting the pack up your desk talk.
Wrong.
My long-term friend smiled. I frowned at Jenna.
Agent Brooks, care to elaborate?
Agent Evans raised an eyebrow.
I had a feeling that something was wrong, and after I spoke with Danielle about it, I hacked into her laptop and backed everything up to my hard drive.
My eyes widened. You hacked into my laptop? Jenna? I exclaimed. I felt violated.
Agent Brooks, what you did was out of your jurisdiction.
What if it fell into the wrong hands?
Another senior agent asked, one who I'd never met before.
With all due respect, Agent Fitzpatrick, it didn't. And now we have everything Danielle gathered.
They filtered through everything. CCTV footage, statements, pictures, DNA, not that there was much of it, reports, missing jewelry reports, and any alibi reports. Had Miller been alive, he would have been charged on 4 accounts and sent away for life, probably without any chance of getting out. Good. That afternoon, before I left, I asked Agent Evans to delay the announcement of Miller and Jack so I could tell my parents. It's just, they need to hear it from me, not on the news. Evans nodded slowly.
Yes, I was going to ask about that. Usually, we alert the immediate family as a courtesy anyway.
I shouldered my bag.
In any case, I was going to suggest you take the weekend off, Danielle, if for nothing else, as a brief bereavement period. You will, of course, be entitled to an additional 11 days, should you wish to take them.
I will take them, just not right now. I'll see this case through, then see where I'm at. Evans smiled tightly.
I will see you on Monday then.
I left and immediately went to JFK to book a flight back home to my aunt's. I crashed out on the 6.5-hour flight, probably for the first proper time in over 3 days. I realised, rather bitterly, that my lovely car was back in Miami. Oh God, the parking was going to cost me my firstborn. I left security back in San Fran and hailed a cab, directing him to my aunt's house. I grimaced as I stared at the phone, heavily debating whether or not I should ring my dad or text him. I chose the former.
Hey, Asti, what's up?
Dad, I need you and the others to come to Aunt Claire's. I need to tell you and Mum something, I sighed.
The others? Who? Alicia, Emmy, and Leah?
I rolled my eyes. No, my siblings. I rubbed my head.
They are your sisters, Asti.
You know damn well who I mean. It's about Jack, I snapped. My dad sighed.
Ast, I can't just go. I have work, and cars are expensive to fuel.
Oh, how the tone changes. A bolt of anger shot through my body. You need to figure it out then, ASAP. I have to tell you all something, and if you don't want to be here, fine. You'll just have to hear it on the news instead, I snapped. My dad sighed irritably.
Fine. I'll see what I can do.
I growled and slammed my phone down on the leather seat.
Everything alright there, pal?
The cab driver asked. I sighed. Yeah, just difficult parents. I rubbed my face.
I feel you there. My mum ain't spoken to my daddy in about 10 years.
I chuckled bitterly. My mum hasn't spoken to my dad properly in nearly 20. For the rest of the journey, I listened as the cab driver ranted about his family life. I hummed when appropriate and made facial expressions based on the tone of his voice as we drove through the San Francisco traffic. I thought, how the hell was I going to tell my mother that her son, my brother, was dead? How would my siblings react? None were particularly close to either of us, to be fair, but I know Amy had a soft spot for him. I sighed as we pulled up outside my apartment block.
That'll be $50, Mum.
I handed the money over, plus a $10 tip as a thank you, and made my way in. My aunt was working, and my mother was at some kind of physio centre as it was a Friday, so I was alone. And I sobbed. My dad arrived the next day, along with Simon, Thomas and Amy. Thankfully, he left his other brood back at my old home. I don't think I could have coped with his new wife crying over her son, or his twin daughters, who no doubt would try anything to get the attention on them. They had already approached some San Francisco news outlets, claiming that their sister, me, was a top-notch FBI agent who protected the president. I'm not even kidding. Purely so they could boast about my job, which they shouldn't even know about. I'll give you 3 guesses who blabbed. I met them at the airport and drove them over to my aunt's, who greeted him with a very deserved frosty reception. I made tea for me and my mum and coffee for the others while everyone reacquainted with each other in the living area.
Asked, where's Jack? Isn't he supposed to be here at this impromptu family gathering?
I cleared my throat. No. I hesitated and sat down on the sofa.
Astrid, where's Jack?
I sighed softly. Mum, I can't beat around the bush about this, I warned.
Astrid, stop playing. Where is he?
He's dead, Amy. The room froze. He was shot, back in LA. Amy froze.
You're lying. I bet this is another prank of yours.
I glared at him. Thomas, I'm 22 years old. When was the last time I played a prank? And besides, why would I even think about pranking like this? I snapped. He shrugged arrogantly.
Who the hell knows? You never speak to us anymore.
I scoffed. Seriously? You have my number. You're not a vegetable. I trust you know how to use a phone, yes? Thomas glared. I faced my mum. Mum, are you okay? I asked gently. She blinked slowly.
How did he die?
He was shot by the Los Angeles FBI Special Agent Department. He was caught in the crossfire of the detainment of another man, a dangerous man, I answered. She swallowed.
Where is his body?
I rubbed my knuckle, an anxiety habit I developed recently. Being autopsied by forensic pathologists in LA, they will send his body over when they're done. My mum abruptly stood up and left the room, my aunt trailing after her. The room was silent. Amy stared tearfully at the floor, Simon stared at the wall, Thomas's eyes were shut, and my father was on his phone. I rubbed my neck and exhaled shakily.
So it was you who killed him?
Simon asked. I blinked. What?
Simon.
FBI. You're in the FBI, right?
I don't see what I have to do with it. He was caught in the crossfire. That had nothing to do with me, Simon, and you know that. I spoke as evenly as I could.
But you were there, weren't you? What was the other guy being shot for?
Simon, you know she can't answer that.
She's right. I'm prohibited until it's publicly released, I said, equally as quietly. And besides, Simon, even if I could tell you, I didn't pull the trigger, neither did I put him in that situation. He was with dangerous people, and he lost his life because of it. I tried to make him listen, but he wouldn't. Simon rolled his eyes.
But you did kill him.
I scoffed. Right. And every police officer that's ever shot someone, their whole unit is responsible for that death, yeah? Simon didn't say anything. Reconnect with reality, asshole. Don't speak to me until you do. I stormed out of the apartment and walked off to a nearby park, one that Jack and I would sometimes go to, desperately fighting off tears the whole way. 2 months passed before the information was made public. My mum hadn't spoken to me since I told her about Jack. My dad texted me on occasion, but none of my siblings bothered. They jetted back off to their perfect lives the very same night I told them. Family, right? As part of the inquest, requested by Miller's mother of all people, I had to go through an interview process, recounting every detail. Evans was the supervisor in the room, what with being the man who assigned the case, while an out-of-state superior came to do the interviewing. I told him everything. If I missed anything and they found out, I'd probably lose my job. I even reached out to Jackson Memorial, the hospital I was at when I had my seizure, to receive my medical report. I handed over the evidence I'd collected, that I was allowed to, obviously, in an attempt to get the process over as quickly as possible. It was a week-long ordeal, with Evans essentially acting as my lawyer, stopping the superior when he asked classified questions. The superior left with a stony face and a stiff farewell.
You'll hear from our office within 5 working days.
I might as well start packing up my desk, I mumbled sarcastically. Evans raised an eyebrow.
Why? You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't shoot Agent Miller. Neither did you orchestrate this mess. Thus, meaning you are free of blame.
I rubbed my forehead with a sigh. Yeah, we'll see. I left headquarters for some lunch with Jenna, my rock in an insane world. Honestly, I've been so stressed. I haven't even had my period, I mumbled into my hot chocolate. Jenna snorted.
Well, as long as you didn't have any wild one-night stands, you're fine.
Only when I took another sip of my drink did Jenna's sentence sink in. I froze. I did have a one-night stand. But it's okay, we used protection. I reassured my conscience. But did we? It was such a spur-of-the-moment thing. I think. I tried to brush off my sudden unease with another sip of my drink. Jenna knew. She squinted in my direction.
Danielle Clarke.
Jenna Brooks, I answered. She gasped.
You dog. You had a one-night stand, didn't you?
I sighed loudly. Yes, but we used protection. I paused. I think. Jenna squealed. Jenna, shut up. Someone will hear you, I hissed.
Never mind them. We need to get you a pregnancy test. Well?
Jenna began. I exhaled shakily and wiped my hands on my leggings. What? I asked. Is it positive? Jenna sighed. Show me the damn test, I hissed, grabbing it. Almost tauntingly, 2 very pink lines glared at me.
Congratulances?
I dropped the test on the side. Shit. I rubbed my head. Jenna, I'm not ready for another kid. I've only just got my own place. I'll have to quit. I'll have to move in with Amy or my dad. Shit. I spiraled.
Would you relax? Freaking out isn't going to help anyone.
Jenna snapped, grabbing my arms.
What's done is done, okay? Whether you like it or not, there is a visitor in your uterus.
She continued.
Now the question begs, who's the dad?
I groaned. Jesus, Jenna, I don't know. I think his name was like John or some shit. Very wrong and very false information, but she didn't need to know otherwise. The next main issue on my plate was how the living hell was I going to tell Noah? Oh, by the way, I'm pregnant and it's yours. Want to help me raise it? You stay at home and I go to work? Somehow, I think that will do more harm than good. Typical. My first fling since Mason, and I ended up knocked up again. Neither of us spoke for a minute.
What are you going to do about work?
Jenna asked quietly. I sighed softly. I don't know. I'd have to take leave indefinitely. How would I come back, though? Who'd look after the baby while I worked? I shut my eyes tightly.
Your mom?
I shook my head. No, she can barely look after herself, much less a baby. Jenna hummed.
Your dad?
I scoffed. Absolutely not. He couldn't even look after his kids, much less someone else's. And don't even ask about my siblings. They're no use either. Well, Amy might be, but she sure as hell wouldn't look after her niece or nephew while I worked. She was too self-absorbed for that.
Well, maybe you can do a DNA test and track the dad down. Maybe if he knew, he'd help?
Jenna offered weakly. I laughed bitterly. I don't think he would, Jenna. If he was careless enough not to use protection, something tells me he won't be up for the consequences of his actions. Jenna frowned.
That's not fair. It takes two to tango, Dee. You know it's not entirely his fault there was no protection.
I sighed. I know.
Agent Clarke, may I borrow you for a moment?
I turned to see who called me. Yes, sir. I smiled briefly at Evans before grabbing my hot chocolate cup. What can I say? New York does a beastly hot chockey. Evans gestured me into his office and shut the door behind me. What's up, sir? I asked.
As you know,
he began.
Most of the information about this case has now been made publicly available.
I nodded. Yes, I've heard. So had my family. My poor phone hadn't stopped buzzing.
A few news outlets are wanting to do a coverage of it being a huge case.
I nodded. I could see where this was going.
ABC, CNN, Fox, and NBC want to have an interview with you and ask you questions about the case.
I blinked. Aren't they huge corporations out here? Evans nodded.
Statewide, all over stations.
I whistled. Damn, so no pressure then?
The chances are you'd only need to do one interview with one reporter, and the footage would just be reused throughout the stations.
I nodded. Yeah, that's fine. I'm only loitering here anyway.
Okay, I'll set it up and get some questions sent over. Only answer what's available and what you feel comfortable with, okay? This won't be a live recording.
I made my way back to my desk and began sifting through the publicly made information just so I knew what I could say and what wasn't released. There were pictures of Blake, Clarice, Noah, known as Levi, and Jack inside the Gucci and Tiffany's. Some simplified DNA reports, pictures, clipped statements, photos, and a few columns of the total stolen money. The guy who they were working for hadn't yet been revealed, but if I were him, I wouldn't be placing any bids just yet. That'd draw way too much attention, and you don't play around with a $35 billion deal like it's a fiver. My emails pinged with a new message.
Clarke, interview with Petra Jefferson, Monday at 11:30 a.m. Address, 195 Boulevard Way, New York City. Estimated time, less than 60 minutes. Question points are attached.
I exhaled loudly as I opened the attachment. 60 minutes for an interview? What does she want? My life story? The interview rolled around, and my nerves were at a new level. I hadn't told anybody about this. If my family couldn't be bothered to reach out to me, then they could listen to it on the news. I sat down in front of this Petra with a small smile. Bright blue eyes caked in thick eyeliner and bright red lips. She was quite fair-skinned, much like myself. The only thing I was a little jealous of was her luscious brown hair, which hung in loose beach waves around her shoulders. Somehow, she was both exactly what I expected and what I didn't expect.
I trust you received my questions?
I nodded. Yes, I smiled.
Good. I will warn, some questions or points will be follow-ups, depending on your answers.
I dismissed it. That's fine. The majority of the interview went smoothly.
What were your initial thoughts about the robberies taking place? How did you go about finding out the culprit? How did they do it with no DNA evidence? Why did they go from New York to Miami to LA? It was known that one of the criminals was Jack Clarke. How did you feel about going after your brother?
Nothing I didn't expect. Until Petra grinned like a shark.
One final question, Miss Clarke.
I smiled, as I had been for the whole 42 minutes.
How did you feel when your partner, Agent Robert Miller, kidnapped and kept you hidden in a basement for days?
I made eye contact with Evans across the room, who shook his head frantically. This wasn't public info. Instead of panicking, I maintained my composure. Well, I'm not sure who said this, but it's not true. Petra narrowed her eyes.
Why didn't he assist you in the final grab then?
Agent Miller and I agreed this was a case that was not suited for him. He left and I took over. Petra glared.
Cut that question, John.
She snapped at the poor cameraman. I maintained my smile. God, sometimes journalists or paparazzi were utter assholes. I made a show of looking at my watch, which she caught on to. She looked me up and down with a sneer, then plastered her fake smile back on.
And that was Agent Clarke. Thank you, Danielle.
Jack's body was sent over another month later, along with the death certificate, only serving to prove to my siblings what I'd already told them. I called them and my dad again, saying we were cremating him in San Francisco, but burying half in Cambridge, where we spent half of our childhood, and keeping half in San Francisco. When we broached my father with my mother's request for Jack's future ashes and splitting them 50-50, he agreed straight away, almost seeming relieved about it. Sometimes I wonder if he wanted me and Jack. He never seemed bothered by anything we did, not unless it was a huge achievement. After many threats and arguments, mostly on my part, everyone settled on a date to come over and say a final goodbye. I rode with my mother to the crematorium. She sobbed over his body despite the casket being shut. Amy was visibly upset as well. It was good to know that at this point in my life, I was 14 weeks pregnant, meaning my hormones were rife and strong. When Simon grumbled for the umpteenth time, I spun on my heel and jabbed a finger into his chest. "Show some goddamn respect," I hissed. "Our brother is dead, and all you can do is bitch and whine." Thomas stepped between us both with a glare. Simon huffed and turned away, but the damage was already done. I stood by my mother and placed my hand on her shoulder. She watched in silence as the closed casket was taken away.
"Come on,"
my dad said, surprisingly gently.
"Let's go and get a drink."
He led my mum out by her shoulder, while I trailed at the back with my aunt.
"Don't you think it's a bit strange that the casket wasn't open?"
she asked. I frowned. A little, I suppose. But maybe that's just the way the creme do it. It was very last minute, I answered. I held the door of the bar open while my aunt hummed.
"Maybe."
We made our way over to a table while my dad knocked a pint of beer back like water. I chose apple juice as a very obvious substitute for my alcohol problem.
"I can't believe he's gone,"
my mum mumbled over her drink. Amy hugged her tightly. The waitress came over, asking if we'd like
"Can I have a round of rum?"
I had to say no, which drew many suspicious glances. "What? I'm driving and at work tomorrow morning," I argued.
"No, you aren't, and that hasn't stopped you before."
I rolled my eyes.
Probably a period-related thing.
Amy rolled her eyes.
"Simon, do you know how periods work?"
She'd brightened up since her first drink, which was nice. She rarely smiled anymore, or at least not around me.
Yes, I assumed the painkillers would stop the booze.
Simon snapped. I had a bad feeling this was going to out my pregnancy if the conversation didn't change soon.
"Believe me, the only reason a woman stops drinking is if she's pregnant."
I sighed quietly.
Well, it's not like Astrid's pregnant. She'd need a boyfriend for that.
I leaned on my hand.
Are you?
I dropped my head.
Holy shit, Astrid's pregnant!
I grimaced. Surprise? It could have gone better, but I didn't need them. I knew my mother was blinded by grief, but she accused me of being insensitive to Jack's death and that getting knocked up was a smear on his memory. I left the sonogram of my 14-week-old baby on the table and stormed out. I drove to my apartment, hoping Noah was there. Since I'd left him to run back to San Fran all those months ago, it was 2, Astrid, don't be dramatic, I hadn't yet seen him. I claimed the keys pretty quickly once I got home. I paid a moving company to move my stuff from the storage unit to my apartment, and my aunt watched them carefully to make sure nothing was stolen. I needed to decorate it, but I was needed in New York nearly daily, so I just stayed in Jenna's house while I wrapped everything up. Evans was a little upset that I was transferring to the Californian division, but he accepted it graciously. I promise, if an affordable apartment comes up in New York, I'll move back, I joked. Evans chuckled in return.
I hope California knows what they've accepted.
I acted offended. Maybe I will stay. Evans shook his head.
You'll be great over there. I know Staneson well, even if she's based in Los Angeles. She's put in a good word for you as a favor to me. So, don't let me down.
I smiled. Thank you, sir. Evans waved me off with a chuckle.
Go. You finished 5 minutes ago. Don't think you're getting OT for this.
I laughed as I retreated out of the New York FBI division for, quite possibly, the last time. I flew back to San Francisco and drove to my new apartment, fully furnished and everything. Sure, finding a company that would deliver and set up cost a lot of money, but despite my mum not speaking to me still, She and my aunt gave me enough money to cover over half, which saved me literally hundreds. I unlocked the door with a loud sigh. I dropped my keys and bag on the side, immediately noticing the hidden male shoes by the bin, tucked away safely behind a pair of my knee-high boots, hidden to the untrained eye. "Noah?" I called. "It's me." I felt a smile split my face when he rounded the corner.
"Hey, I was beginning to think you'd set me up."
My heart fluttered a little at his smirk. "No, just family stuff," I sighed.
Family's overrated.
I have something for you," I said as I reached into my bag.
"Yeah? Anything interesting?"
He grinned. I rolled my eyes. "Nothing like that, you freak." I grabbed the other sonogram. I placed it into his hands.
"What's this?"
he asked, frowning. "Use your eyes and you'll know." He chuckled. When he fell dead silent, I narrowed my eyes in worry. I began rubbing my knuckle again.
"Is this a sonogram?"
he asked softly. I nodded. "Mm-hmm." I waited. He stared in silence.
"Yours?"
he asked. I nodded again. He nodded.
Is it mine?"
I hesitated. "Yeah. The lady thinks she could be a girl, but we won't know for another month or so." I stopped abruptly when Noah grabbed me in a tight squeeze.
"We're gonna have a baby!"
A little over 6 months later, I lay in a hospital bed, exhausted. I watched as Noah cradled the newborn against his chest with gentle hands.
"She's perfect."
I sipped the water by my side. "She is," I agreed. The TV played some American sitcom quietly in the background. I'd never seen Noah look this in love with something before. I didn't even know his hands could be that gentle.
"What are we gonna call her?"
I pouted slightly. "To be honest, I haven't thought about it." He chuckled. "What?" I asked, annoyed. The pain meds were beginning to wear off, leaving the very prominent pain of a recently delivered 7-pound baby.
"You were pregnant for 9 months and didn't have a name?"
I rolled my eyes. I didn't even know she was going to be a girl until she was born. The nurse said she hid her private bits. Noah only laughed harder. "You're an asshole," I snarked.
"Oh, don't be like that. I'm sorry."
"Do you have any ideas?" I asked. Noah put the baby in the small crib next to my bed.
"Well, I was thinking we could name her after Jack in some way. I know you two were close."
I stared, suddenly tearful. "Really?" He nodded.
"Of course."
He shrugged his shirt back on.
"Did he have a middle name or anything? We can't call our daughter Jack."
"Yeah, Oliver, after my granddad." Noah spread his hands.
"Easy then. Olivia. Olivia Clarke."
I shook my head gently. "Olivia Noel Clarke." I smiled and grabbed his hand. "Named after my 2 best friends."